Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio. So, for today, we got to put in a disclaimer. What's the date? It's a Friday.
11/6. So November 6th.
So, as we record this, Samantha and I do not know the official results of the 2020 presidential election. We're feeling a little tired, a little nauseated, just kind of mentally doing our best. But we did want to talk about some early things that we do know, especially when it comes to women in this election.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, Anney. Although I already kind of know. I already know because we've been very, very connected this week. What have you been doing in this ridiculously panicked time?
What have I been doing? Oh my gosh. I've been studiously doing my best not to check the results constantly, be on my phone constantly. I've avoided all televised news. I have watched some comedians take on some clips and their take on this whole thing. And as you know, Samantha, I have read a lot of fan fiction. I've written a lot of fan fiction, played some games, and trying to be there for my friends and check in with people, be on call, as they say.
Right.
What about you?
Oh, well, yeah, I have been glued to my phone, unfortunately, to the point my stomach is like in knots. I will say one of the things that I have been doing that has been helping me is focusing on the good things, trying to take the small victories, even though there's a lot of disappointments. And we've talked about this before no, we haven't talked about this before because we didn't know what was going on with the election. There's a lot of disappointment in knowing how ugly this campaign and this election has become and how big of a divide there is, but trying to be cautiously optimistic with the small victories. And that's what we're kind of talking about today. It's not a small victory either. So let's just say that. It's a huge victory and we want to focus on it and we want to give props because according to the data released on Thursday by the Center of American Women in Politics, so far, 131 women have been elected to Congress. And that's 100 for the Democratic Party and 31 to the Republican Party, which beat out the previous record of 127 as of last year. This makes up for almost 30% of Congress, which is obviously still a low number for our population and for our demographics, but it's still definitely a time to celebrate because the numbers are slowly increasing. And again, like I said, this is one of the things I'm trying to focus on. So we want to shout out some of the amazing things that are happening in our country as we wait with bated breath for what's more, I guess, the more stuff. I don't even know how to say it, y'all. We're so wrecked right now. My mind is so frazzled. But yeah, just trying to glow and bask in what the good things are. And it is some of these women who are making huge headways.
Yeah, and so we did want to go over some congratulations, and we thought we would start with New Mexico and the all women of color House there.
Yes.
Yeah, for the first time in history of New Mexico, they now have an all women of color House. The first state to do this was Hawaii in 1990. It is still a huge accomplishment, and New Mexico's Deb Haaland is one of the women of color who already made history in 2018 as one of the first Native American congresswomen.
Joining her is Leisure Fernandez, who has become the first Latina woman to represent northern New Mexico in Congress. Congratulations. And of course, we have to say Republican Yvette Harrell, who is a member of the Cherokee Nation, has also become part of the House.
And in even better news, Cori Bush has become the first Black woman to represent Missouri in Congress. She beat out Republican Anthony Rogers by a 79% to 19% margin. She is a huge advocate for the progressive movement and has been a vocal activist with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. I wonder if she's going to become one of the squad.
Yeah.
I like
that. I like that.
Right.
I think she
They're
should.
going to add a fifth member and they're going to push harder. I love
Fab
it. I love it
Five.
so much. And I will say, this was actually her third attempt, I believe, to become an elected official. And she pushed and got highlighted. And she made it happen. And the people around her who supported her made it happen. So it was a beautiful victory, all in all.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and also a beautiful victory, Sarah McBride, who won in Delaware, which has made her the highest-ranking trans official in the U.S. So congratulations. She beat out Republican Steve Washington to take over the seat from Democrat Harris McDowell. So, oh my goodness, that is such a huge accomplishment.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of the squad, they are back. All the women of the squad were reelected, including Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar, New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Michigan Representative Rashida Tlaib, Massachusetts Representative Ayanna Pressley. So that's awesome. Very excited for that. And then, of course, as we record this, we're in Georgia, which is surprisingly to many a battleground state. And there's been a lot of conversation about Stacey Abrams and all the work she did to make this happen.
Right. And with Stacey Abrams, we have to give credit to things like the Fight Action, New Georgia Project, the Black Voters Movement, Georgia Democrats. And there's so many Black women in the organizations within Georgia that have pushed the state into such a way. And it's not coincidence that one of the bluest counties is Clayton County, which includes Jonesboro. And for those I know that are not familiar with Georgia, it is a high population for the Black community. It is a thriving population. It's right outside of Atlanta. And it is absolutely something that has pushed our state over that. And of course, John Lewis's district, which is now Nikema Williams. Congratulations to her, who won that house as well. But those two and all of these different organizations that have been created by Black women push Georgia to be a battleground state, and it is making us nauseous, but excited at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, it's inspiring to see the work these women have put into it, and these victories. And we are planning an election reaction episode, and surely we'll talk about some of this some more.
Right. And we do also want to talk about the fact that the WNBA helped push Reverend Raphael Warnock to being at the head of where he is. Like, he actually outperformed Kelly Loeffler, but they're in a runoff now. But the WNBA pushed that forward and definitely made it seen, and you got to give credit and kudos to that. I love that, by the way, because we know that Loeffler owns the WNBA, and they weren't having it. Thank you very much. And of course, we have to talk a little bit, and we're not going to get too into, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has become the very extreme right QAnon endorsing beliefs representative, who is now a part of the House as well. So it's going to be interesting to have that extreme. As much of progress as we see in Georgia, that she was one of the ones that were officially elected, is kind of interesting to see the opposite reactions to that.
Yeah. So we're planning on coming back and talking about these things in the future. For now, we hope everyone's doing as well as they can be. I know this is a stressful time. Believe me, we are feeling it.
We're with you.
And I know even some listeners from other countries have written in and said, I'm feeling it.
Right. Yeah. And we've had listeners being like, oh my God, Georgia, y'all, what is happening with y'all? Like, yeah, it's happening.
I mean, fingers crossed.
Right.
And we would love to hear from you listeners. You can email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can also find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram at Stuff Mom Never Told You. Thanks as always to our super producer, Andrew Howard.
Thanks, Andrew.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.